Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Pastor Ronnie and welcome to At Home Weekly with Park Hill Kids. It's time to party. Woohoo! Hey everybody, last week we spoke through the story of Jesus' triumphant entry into Jerusalem while riding on a donkey. But more importantly, our ponder point was that Jesus is King. Here's why it was really important. See, back in the Old Testament, you had the prophet Zechariah. He prophesied that the one true king would come into Jerusalem riding on a young donkey. But more importantly, this wasn't about some regular king. This was about the king above every other king. And it wouldn't just be during this really small reign within Israel, but we're talking about the king who rules and reigns over everything. It's absolutely awesome and wonderful. And as great as that was, we're going to keep moving forward. And so this week, we're actually going to be reflecting. So let's check out what we're going to be doing this coming week. Hey, this week, our ponder point is that God is faithful. Everybody, I want you to say that with me. 1, 2, 3. God is faithful. Families, what we do in Park Hill Kids is we have something that we call Remember and Celebrate Weeks. Every quarter we do it twice. And this is where we take a little bit of time to take a break from teaching. And instead, we give an opportunity to remember, reflect, and celebrate what God has done. And so this week's going to look a little bit different as we take some time to reflect, remember, and celebrate everything that God has done through His faithfulness. As we go through this week, we're going to be observing one of the Jewish festivals called the Feast of Trumpets. And everybody, what I want you to do is I want you to take your fist in your hands and I want you to make certain, you pretend that you are blowing on the trumpet. So everybody do it with me. The Feast of Trumpets was the first fall holiday that the Jewish people did. It was a really big deal and it was something that was very special. But the name in Hebrew is actually called Rosh Hashanah, which literally means the head of the year. See, in the Jewish world, you had your calendar split up into two parts. You had it to where you had what was called the civil calendar, and then you had the religious calendar. With the civil calendar, you kind of have to think of it kind of how we view our calendar of the month of January as our new year. See, the Feast of Trumpets was, in some sense, their version of the new year. It was a really special time meant to do some really awesome and great things and a reminder to reflect and to remember what God has done for them. But how they would normally celebrate is they would do a food offering to God. They would take a special day of rest. They would also just hang out and just have fun. But then Rosh Hashanah led to another holiday called the Day of Atonement. And these holidays are only 10 days apart. And with the Day of Atonement, what happened is this wasn't a holiday to celebrate and to go crazy and to have a lot of fun. This was a holiday to ask God to purify them or to make them right. And so what the Jewish people have done is they've said, hey, for Rosh Hashanah, we're going to celebrate, but we're going to remember and reflect on God's faithfulness. And then for the Day of Atonement, we're going to remember that God is judge and that He has a lot of good for our lives, but we do have to live pure and holy lives. Did you know that the people of Israel had 7 major holidays that they celebrated every single year? But the crazy thing is 6 of these holidays were around the idea of feasting and having lots of fun. The 7th holiday, however, the Day of Atonement, its main focus was for repentance and just turning in reflection to God. And they would often have to fast during this time. Hey families, here is your connection time for the week. What I want you to do is I want you guys to create your own kind of feast. And it can be anything from snacks and junk food to turkey dinner if you want. Do whatever you want to. The purpose of this is to really just spend time together. But the other thing that you're going to do as well is take some time this week to talk about different ways that God has been faithful to you and to every single person in your family. Then read Psalm 98 together. You're going to notice that there's a trumpet in there, and so if you have a trumpet, take a moment and actually have people blow your trumpet. It'll just be a fun time together. But then here are your questions for this week. What does faithful mean? How could someone show you that he is faithful? And when has God been faithful to you? Hey, these questions you do not have to do right at one spot. These are questions that you can actually spread out through the entire week. Hey, here is your remember verse. And I want everybody to repeat it with me. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Hebrews 4:16. Let's do that one more time. 3, 2, 1. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Hebrews 4:16. Hey, we are just about to wrap up with our blessing, but before we do that, I want to encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to both our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels and pages. You can find all the information from today's At Home Weekly in the posts for both Facebook and Instagram, but then also in the channel or in the subtitle descriptions for the YouTube channel. Families, here is your blessing. And I would encourage you to make certain to say this to everybody. Take time this week to individually speak that, whether it's your spouse or that's yourself or that's your kids or grandkids. Take a moment to do this. And this is the blessing. It says, may you trust in God, whose faithfulness is bigger than we can ever imagine. He loves you, he hears you, and rejoices in you. May you remember his faithfulness this week. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us in our Park Hill Kids at Home Weekly. Hopefully this is a blessing for you, and you will be able to find the Google link document to the At Home Weekly in both the subtitle comments and on the post in both Instagram and Facebook. Have a great day.